Hi, so we are here today with my dear friend Alex and counselor. She's also a coach for families, kids, and women for relationships. And we just want to talk a little bit about domestic violence today. Also, I'm Miss Women West Coast 2025. So we are going to talk a little bit about what domestic violence means, and also how to remove yourself from an abusive situation or relationship. And we're just trying to spread a little bit of our hope and practical tools for victims of domestic violence. So we're just going to start with a few questions, and then maybe Alex, you can explain to us exactly what domestic violence looks like and the different forms.
Okay, so actually, what I was going to talk about was domestic violence, but also the different forms of violence. So typically, people think of violence as being very aggressive, very obvious, hitting, screaming and hurting people. But we're just going to cover more so the emotional side, but it can be emotional, psychological, it can be financial. And this happens often in violent relationships. And also, it can be cultural, spiritual, so sexual. And well, one of the things that gets overlooked often is emotional abuse. So, emotional abuse is invalidation of emotions. And it can look like pretty much feeling like as if your feelings don't matter in the relationship. So this might happen um, more frequently than we realize, and it doesn't have to be completely, um, you know, it doesn't have to be a completely toxic relationship for this to happen, but it is still important to notice, and there are steps you can take. So I just wanted to go over a little bit about that, but we also wanted to talk about some of the things you can do if you are experiencing some of the more severe types of abuse as well.
Yes, of course. And like you said, sometimes the abuse happens very subtly and we don't realize what's actually going on while we're going through it. But that doesn't mean that it's not to be taken serious.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, any type of abuse is a very important matter, and sometimes it can start off as a very small form, and then it'll just explode at some point.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, like you were saying, it's not always criminal, but we have to take whatever abuse very serious so that we can live a healthy life and be balanced.
Yeah, but no, that is exactly right. That is the point. So it's not about It's it's just more about taking care of yourself. So if you're noticing
Mhm.
patterns happening that's, creating a lot of harm, the harm can be things like anxiety. You can feel like you're losing your mind. You can feel like you're alone. Isolation is a big form of abuse. It's a psychological form. So
Mhm.
it can be exclusion from activities, events. Financial can be very subtle. Sometimes it can be even the person who has the money and is in control of the money. So the woman could be, basically earning the income, but she's also being controlled. So this can happen as well. So this can look like very controlling behavior. So, emotional invalidation can be, you're so sensitive. Why are you feeling like this? There must be a problem with you because you're always, feeling a certain way, and that is actually abusive because our feelings are important. And in a healthy relationship, your feelings are valid. So you are able to express them and you're able to feel them without feeling like there's something wrong with you.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. And I also speak from personal experience, so I can very much relate to what you're saying. about the other person trying to make us dependent, especially financially. That can be a big one. When the other person knows that you know you might be depending on them just financially or even for living or housing situation, and that can create a lot of pressure and trauma, and even it can create a lot of how can I say this, tension, and even being able to take the step to get help, because we can go through all these emotions like feeling stuck or physical issues that can start showing up, getting anxiety like you were saying, that's also very important. Anxiety, what used to happen to me a lot was with these like breathing attacks that I would get, that I would feel like I couldn't breathe anymore, and up until this day I still have that from the past. So it's you
Mm,
really have to understand that all these physical issues that you can get from that, they're very important. You cannot take them lightly, but it does take a lot of time to heal from those things. So but like you said, we always have to be mindful about what we're going through,
mhm.
and yes, and realize that we can get help. We're not alone, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yep, no,
it's
exactly
tough.
right. Yeah, then that's a good point. So with the feelings that you experience even years down the line can happen. So or could be a couple of years later, you're still experiencing panic attacks. And that can all be as a result from the abuse in the past. So that trauma. And so yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that we can do as well.
Mhm.
So
Yes, so some practical tips that we can
mhm. So
yes, I was saying some practical tips, things that we can do to while we're going through domestic violence. It's very important
yep,
to build
yep, a
yeah, I'm
support.
sorry.
No, that's okay. So I can take
Yes,
this part if you like.
to
So
build
pretty
like,
much, yeah, we want to
okay.
build. So what happens is, as when we experience abuse, we get to a point where we stop trusting ourselves. And so, in order for that, for some of the tips and things we can start doing is to become aware of the patterns. So, notice if you're invalidating yourself. Not only is it coming from the outside, but are you doing it to yourself? So, are you telling yourself, oh, I'm being too sensitive here. Oh, maybe there's something wrong with me. I feel this way. And yeah, clearly there's something wrong with me for feeling like this. And so, notice those patterns coming up for yourself and just take note of them. So you can then start to allow yourself to feel your emotions and without judgment, just take that as part of a valid part of your experience. And so this is going to mean that regardless of the perspective of the other person or others, your experience is very real and you do have these feelings, and that is okay. And then we want to practice communicating those feelings. So, especially with people that you trust, so you want to find a support network of people that you can trust so that you can actually start to express and communicate these feelings. Um, and I would look at people who understand emotional intelligence, maybe mentors, coaches, counselors, people who um, do take this side of things a little bit more seriously, because yeah, you do want to have a support network that is going to help you um, build that self-trust back. And so you want them to really understand your world and your feelings and start validating that for you. And so that takes me to the part about seeking professional help. But in terms of actually putting together like a safety plan or getting help from domestic violence, in Australia we have a great line called 1-800-RESPECT. They can help you with the support services that you're going to need to put together a safety plan. So a safety plan is going to look different depending on where you're at, but and it's also going to change. but essentially it is a plan to keep you safe. And you would have people maybe involved, like trusted friends, support services, again, part of this plan to take those steps forward. And as you said, when we take the steps and we take the actions, we're still going to feel um, and we might like there will be times where panic attacks come back, anxiety comes up again, and that's all natural and normal, especially when especially in the early days, because it takes time. So even when you've taken all the right actions and all the behaviors are starting to change, the inner world might still feel the same. So that it takes a while for your body to catch up. And so in that time, we want to start reframing the beliefs around um, the events and the situations so that we can start empowering ourselves, so that we can start. So as we're taking the actions, we're also becoming more aware of our inner state as well.
Yes, that is very true. And I think that's also something that we have to be patient with ourselves as well. And realize that, all these changes don't happen overnight. It is a long process and it can take years sometimes to heal. So, that's also something that we don't have to put all this pressure onto ourselves, and also realize to not put pressure on, sometimes we'll have a partner in our life or friends or family, and we want them to act as our, counselor or our nurse or nurse us, but that's not really the answer. It's good to have friends and to talk to them and let them know what you're going through so they are aware. But it's always good to have a counselor as well that's, a professional that can really go through everything with you step by step. And I mean, I've had a counselor also for years, and I see the progress. But like I said, it's not a quick solution. You have to be patient with yourself as well, and also with the other people that are in your life.
Yeah,
And
so
yes, and then for the action, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I'll let you go. What were you going to say?
Yeah, and then also for the safety planning and safety network, something that I think is also important to have. Always keep your belongings close to you if you know that you're in a very urgent situation or something that could escalate, or could be potentially dangerous or violent. Always have your important things close to you, like your documents. Maybe keep a little bag or keep your phone number safe with you. Write them down somewhere in a book, or don't just rely on your phone. A phone could break, or someone could take the phone away from you, and then you don't have your contact. So that's also something that's might be useful to keep in mind. But yeah, and then always reach out to to people. As you were mentioning, you have the in Australia, you have the organization that helps domestic violence survivors or victims. And here in the US, we also have the domestic violence hotline, which you can reach out to also.
Yep.
I believe they also have a chat online, so you can even chat with them if you need help.
Yep.
And then in any case, it's always good if it's a really bad situation just to contact the police as well. So sometimes that would be the best.
Yeah, of course. And so one of the things I was going to mention was that behaviors like this are not necessarily criminal. So, um, but they can still be considered part of the family violence, which can be the subject of a family violence intervention order. So, if that intervention order is breached, then that would become a criminal offence and charges could be applied. So,
Mhm.
that's something that can be organized through police. So, you would go to the police station, that's how you would do it here. But I'm not sure in where you are how that would work. So, you'd probably have to go to the police website or contact them directly. And also, your specific domestic violence organization should know this, so they would also
Yeah.
direct you to that and let you know how to organize all of that.
Yes, of course. And I think some people, when they're in danger, they don't even realize that maybe they can reach out to certain organizations or where to get help because, like we said, it can just feel very overwhelming.
Mhm.
But yeah, just know that there is obviously help, and we're gonna also
Yeah.
put those contacts down
Yep.
in our video right now as well, just if people need help or want to look it up.
So some of
And
the effects I was just going to cover can be powerlessness. So you might feel shame and guilt, anxiety, and you might have a tendency to want to um, try and negotiate with the abuser and try to change their behavior. And you might notice
Mhm.
yourself blaming yourself for that abuse or just noticing a sense of self-doubt and self-worth. So these are some of the things just to take note of. There could be guilt tripping, gaslighting, name calling, and some of the signs that it is emotional abuse is ignoring your boundaries, invading your privacy, dismissing your feelings, manipulative behavior, and controlling. So being very hypercritical and judgmental.
Yes, yes, I agree. And also what you said, especially when it starts getting to the point, because I feel initially we still try to find excuses for our abuser and start to, mm, just excuse them and kind of like make it look like that's not really what it is, but then we know that it's abuse. So when we are getting called names or, treated a certain way, just ask yourself, is this how it should feel to be in a relationship with anyone? You really have to ask yourself, and I think you'll know the answer that that is unhealthy. So that's where we should really draw the line when we see that, this is not normal behavior. But like you were saying, it's also hard because we try to come up with excuses, and it's hard for us to actually leave the relationship. And then also, we're not only talking about romantic relationships. This could be a family dynamic. This could happen at work. That is another big one as well. It can be in a friendship. So it can be any type of relationship. We're not only talking about, our spouse or, our partner.
Mhm. Yeah. And what were some of the things, Alyssa, that you mentioned that you love doing or
Oh,
that you like to do in your spare time to fill your own cup?
yes, and that's very important that we, asides getting all the help, and the counseling and all that, finding something that makes us happy again and reconnects us to our own self, or that could be things that maybe you used to do in the past that will make you happy or make you feel good. I realized that while I was going through my abusive situation, I abandoned a lot of myself. And I did not do what I was doing before. And it took me years to reconnect. And some of those things could be little things, just like a hobby that you used to do and that would make you happy, or, just breathe, meditate, the usual things that we hear about, but those can actually help us a lot. I
Yep.
know that when I used to have these like anxiety attacks or panic attacks, I couldn't breathe. Like I just couldn't catch my breath. And it got so bad at some point I was going to see all these doctors because I thought I really had a really bad sickness, but they couldn't find anything. And this was just caused mainly by anxiety. And yeah, being caused by another person. Um, yeah, so like I said, it can be little things that make you happy step by step. Maybe just go out with a friend, make something, eat something good, cook something, whatever you enjoy, going to the beach, walking, getting some fresh air. And yeah, and I don't know, this year for me has been kind of great. I actually, I was part of this pageant as well, which is a Miss
Mhm.
West Coast pageant. And that really helped me regain a lot of self-confidence. It might look like nothing to other people, but like I said, when you're when you've lost trust in yourself and your self-worth, it can mean the world to you or to another person that's also been a victim. And it's good to find a support network. And, recently I've been also volunteering a little bit
Mhm.
for other victims, and I've been listening to stories that they've been going through, which are, maybe much worse than what I've seen. And it's nice to talk to other people and also share your experiences. And don't be afraid to share what you've been through. A lot of the time, especially women, I think we want to cover up and look like, oh, everything's fine. I'm doing great. I'm not suffering. I'm just, but that's not the truth.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's good to be open about the truth and speak about it. And, I think that's something that we all should do a little bit more.
I love that. That is so true. And you've just said that well in terms of we all need to do that a little bit more. I think that we tend to like as women we like to look strong and put together, so we don't really value emotional vulnerability like we should, I think. But I think that emotional vulnerability is actually a strength, and it can help us through very difficult times. It can help us find out who we are and what we want and what we actually need. So when we're too strong and we, invalidate our own feelings, this is where we can start to lose um, a sense of self and understanding of our true needs. And I think that what you said was perfect.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's just like I said, we're speaking from experience, so um and and sometimes, like I said, I realized I wasn't really talking about anything that had happened to me because I felt like I needed to, to just cover it up or keep it to myself, but it's good to reconnect, and connecting means also sharing with others. And sometimes it's just finding the right people that actually want to listen to you. Maybe not everyone um, is the right person, or has that emotional sensibility to actually listen to you. But you'll find eventually the right people that are, fit to be in your how do you say that, in your group,
Yeah.
and that will be open to sharing with you, or listening to you as well on the other end.
Great. Thanks so much, Alyssa. Should we leave it there?
Yes, I think we actually covered a lot about what we were wanted to talk about today. And thank you so much actually for sharing all your knowledge and your professional knowledge with us as well.
No problem. Well, I'll close it there and have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you. Same to you. I send you many kisses and hugs.